Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular BCC meeting in the South Walton Annex. Opening comments, I'd just like to say that Commissioner Nick is going to be absent today. He's up in Washington, D.C. at the military fly-in. Do we have any elected officials in the audience? If you do, raise your hand. I don't see anyone. We'll go ahead with the invocation and the pledge. The invocation is given by Jason Cook, youth pastor, First United Pentecostal Church of Westfield, and also our expert IT guy. So we're glad to have Jason.
Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you for your grace that has appeared to all men. We love you tonight, and I ask you to give direction and wisdom from above, Lord. For if we try to make decisions on our own, we know sometimes we'll fail, God. But I ask you to bless the commissioners, bless the staff, and bless the residents, God, that we're here to serve. We just want you to have your way. Let everything be done in decent and order, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the meeting to order. Mr. Jones, do we have any additions and deletions?
Mr. Chairman, the only change we would have is to remove item 13 from the consent agenda and ask you to vote on it immediately. Yes, sorry. There we go. My apologies. We would request and recommend you remove item 13 from the consent agenda, which is dealing with the contract for the Phoenix Country Club, and consider consent agenda absent that, and then vote separately on that item immediately following your vote on the consent agenda, so you can address conflict.
Okay.
Motion to approve consent agenda with the change.
Second. Any comment from the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Does any of the commission have any other consent agendas they would like removed or talked about? Okay, that's a little late, I know, but I forgot it. All right, let's go ahead and I'm sorry, public comments. Anybody have anything that's on the agenda you would like to address now? You can address it now if you have a pressing appointment, but we'll be allowed to talk about it when the agenda item is brought up. Seeing none?
So now would be time to consider item number 13, which is approval of the purchase agreement for the Defeniak Springs Country Club. And for the record, Commissioner Anderson has a voting conflict on this item, and we've submitted the appropriate form to the clerk.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any comment on the board? Any comment from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
We'd like to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
We already did that. No, we didn't.
Do I?
Did we do that?
already approved the consent agenda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to be clear for the record, if we can have a motion.
Just a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, the Waste Management EAL.
Mr. Chairman, I acknowledge my conflict of interest. I filed the proper form with the clerk and will abstain from the vote.
Okay.
Motion to approve EAL.
Second.
Any more comment? Any comment from the audience? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, the first item for your consideration is a request from Ms. Kay Brady, Director of the Walton Okaloosa Council on Aging, and they're requesting assistance to update the Pleasant Valley Area Senior Center. I believe that is their new feeding location in that area for their Meals on Wheels. We've had our Public Works and Construction folks take a look and work with them at what their needs are. We've come to a total of $6,698.10. They currently have $2,500 they could contribute to that effort. So the ask is the difference between $6,698.10 and $2,500, and funding assistance to bring this facility up to a more acceptable form to use for their current needs. Not sure if anyone's here that has any comments about that, but that is the request. If it's something you would like to consider, we would recommend an approval. Mr. Chapman may have some comments in his districts regarding funding source, but that we would move it to legal to create the appropriate documents and agreements to bring back to the board for approval, so that we have the appropriate legal basis to do the things we're being asked to do.
Right, and I don't think it would be a problem for us to enter into an agreement to provide these funds, but I would like some time to maybe get some more information from Ms. Brady exactly about the work that would be done, so we can identify the appropriate funding sources and enter into an agreement should one be necessary. But we can have that back to you guys relatively quickly.
Who owns the building? Do we own the building?
No, the Ms. Brady's organization does, I'm pretty sure, and I see she's here.
Ms. Brady, please come up and state your name and spell your last name, please.
Kay Brady, B-R-A-D-Y. The Council on Aging was deeded the building from the school district with a revert clause. If we ever stop using it for our senior services, then it would be revert back to the school board.
If I look at this calculations correctly, you're proposing to put 2,500 into it?
Yes, sir, that's over what we've already purchased. We've gotten some doors, windows, AC units, and such like that.
But you have 2,500 available to,
Yes,
so
sir.
that leaves approximately $41.98 from the county.
And the use of the labor.
So, I think it would be an appropriate expenditure of county funds. I just need a little bit more time to speak with Ms. Brady so we can come up with a plan and identify the appropriate funding source. It may very well be the case that we could use recreation plat fees for that, but I just need a little bit more information before I can make that determination. But we can easily get that back to you guys, hopefully at the next meeting, if not the very first one in April.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It's,
Sure.
go ahead.
Same situation when Liberty was improved. Of course, I had 0 plat fees and got help from everyone else, so.
Well,
It was
and
a
if-
polling place in the,
Okay.
sorry.
That's all right. You need it in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir. So it would be just a motion for us to move forward with providing that assistance, but for us to bring back any agreements or, and identify the funding source.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? Any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is a request for direction regarding the county property and building that's located next to the Burger King that we typically refer to as the Farmers Market. As you're aware, Tri-County Community Council used that facility for a number of years. The building is in a very sad state of repair. Our assessments of it would indicate that it is beyond its useful life. There are some serious foundation issues with it. We're concerned that if we utilize it for any people that we have some exposure there that we would like to stay away from. So currently, Tri-County has moved out. They have left, they've taken everything they wanted, so whatever's left in there, we can either liquidate or dispose of. But we were seeking direction from the board as to your thoughts on what the next steps would be. We did an appraisal on it perhaps 2 years ago, and I believe it appraised in the $390,000 range. We could certainly liquidate it, use those funds to build a farmer's market somewhere in the area. You know, that may be a lengthy process, depends on how quick we get a offer and able to close on the sale. But it is a valuable asset that the county owns that we should do something with, other than just let it sit there. The minimal we would request is to raise the building and get it out of the way so we're not dealing with a dangerous situation.
Mr. Jones, who owns the parking lot behind it?
We're on 3 plus acres, and that's should be part of the same property. DOT used that for a while in conjunction with the Tri-County. So it's a deep parcel, but I think it's 3 plus or minus acres, 3.5 acres, something.
If we tear the building down for now, and then depending on what we decide on the north TDC, that would probably be a nice location for
Could well be.
a welcome visitor center.
Yes, sir.
We at least get the building knocked down and then see where we're going, say in 6-8 months.
Okay.
You need a motion to that?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I make that motion.
Second for discussion.
okay.
One thing that we've got to try to incorporate here is the request from a lot of people in my district for a farmer's market within an area that is well-traveled, 331. So if we could possibly, after the building is torn down and cleaned up, it's a possibility it can also be used on a limited basis there for a farmer's market.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah.
first thing we need to do is get the building torn down before somebody gets hurt out there. So then we can come back and make some decisions after that. But I agree, that would be a good place for a farmer's
Yeah, I would
market.
We could always go back and maybe put some pole barns, something reasonably cheap
Mhm.
in the interim, but we gotta get the building tore down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait a minute, any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Next item is regarding the naming of County Road 280A, and we said at the last meeting we would move forward with calling the road 280B. We wanted to go through GIS and addressing to be sure all of those things were good, so we're good with that. We've got a policy regarding naming roads and what the criteria are. We'll get that to you. So as we look forward on a more permanent basis, we will utilize that ordinance in the naming it. But unless you have different direction, until that point in time, we will refer to it as 280B. So,
What's the board's wishes?
Motion to approve,
Prove what?
280B.
Oh, well, I'll second that.
Okay.
I mean, all these roads out there, 183, 280, 280A, all have secondary names to them.
Right.
And I think it probably ought to be consistent and leave that road within the naming of the way everything else is. Eventually, somebody's gonna name it
we'll
whatever.
have something, right.
I mean, 183 out of Argyle going into the valley is always referred to as the Valley Road, so, you know, things like that kind of.
Well, I think this, if I remember correctly, this was Cliff's recommendation, just to clear things up with the paperwork. So we can rename it at any time if we want.
Right.
But for the time being, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. And we'll get you a copy of the ordinance that talks about how we move those names forward and what's acceptable.
Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item is in regard to direction the board gave staff, I believe 2 meetings ago, regarding the procurement of the $10 million from the Restore Pot 3 funds. Wanted to bring to your attention the fact that we've had some lengthy discussions with the management group of the Pot 3. We believe we are good to move forward and not amend the state expenditure plan, which is part of that process. The first thing that they need us to do in that will be to an analysis of the bay, what's causing the problems, what needs to happen to clean it up. There's a possibility of paying for that study through Pot 3 funds, but there's also a considerable amount of work that's been done through other efforts along those same lines. So the action we're asking today is to approve for staff to begin the process developing a scope of services that we will eventually put on the street to determine to produce the analysis of the bay. And B is to look through at various funding sources that are available. We heard from some of our lobbyists that may work in conjunction with some of the other components that are currently being done, and to utilize those functions as well in this process. Again, it's not going to be something that happens tomorrow, but this will give us the ability to get started in that acquisition of those funds process.
And this would play into what we did 2 meetings ago about the specific testing of those
Yes, sir.
5
Right.
areas, so we would incorporate that
Yes,
into this.
Would it also incorporate any of Dr. Harper's suggestions for maintenance and improvements?
I believe at this point, those will be made available to whoever would be the folks doing the study. This would be an independent study that says these are the areas we've identified. We would certainly provide them with Dr. Harper's reports, as well as other data that has been collected to make some determinations as to where the issues are and how to best to mitigate those issues.
And you think we can pay for the specific, out of the Pot 3 money, pay for these specific tests? Because
It's possibly.
Some of them sort of expensive.
Yeah, that will be part of what we look at as well. We're gonna look for, because we actually had some separate direction there, we're gonna look for separate funding source for that. If we can find that to get them in place, we will do that. Otherwise, it will be part of what we're looking at.
Any more discussion?
You need a motion to that?
Yes, sir, please.
I'm so moved that we direct staff to
Just to begin developing the scope and search out funding sources.
had a senior moment there a minute.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Any discussion from the audience?
Jim Bagby, B-A-G-B-Y. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good afternoon. I come before you this afternoon to thank you for taking this issue up and the issue of stopping the destruction of the bay. While this is a good first step, it is only that, as y'all have mentioned. It is just a first step. It is conceivable that the county's entire allocation of consortium funds could be consumed just by the driftwood debacle. You need to have a plan to address the Sandestin DRI, the direct diminishment of the bay through the misuse of mosquito control ditches, bayous, and other sources, not to mention the plethora of septic tanks and field lines that also contribute to and make this problem worse. The Walton County Taxpayer Association Board has designated this as one of our priority concerns and stands ready to work with you for real solutions that are achievable and fair for all taxpayers. We encourage you to look at multiple funding sources as Mr. Jones has alluded to. We already know that there will not be any Triumph money for this enormous undertaking, but there are grants and other funding mechanisms, such as MSBU's, that could contribute to the overall solution. The one area of concern we currently have is it does not appear you have changed your legislative priorities at the state or federal levels. We urge you to do that sooner rather than later. Your predecessors have destroyed the habitat of the Bay. We look forward to your comprehensive strategy to resurrect it and to preserve it going forward. Thank you.
Anyone else?
For the record, Alan Osborne. One thing I didn't understand, first of all, I'll say this. I think when we discussed that the other day, it was inappropriate to take public comment when we didn't know what you were going to say. I don't know why that got changed in order. That's not the way we ever do business. And here this thing comes and we have no idea what you're going to say. And then public comment came at the beginning. That was just flat wrong. Secondly is this. I don't like the discussion of using that money to fix septic tanks, and here's why. We talk about fair. They came in our neighborhood and y'all said, you're going to fix your septic tanks and you're going to take city water and you're going to build roads. And they charged us $3 million of an MSBU. Once they do that to me, I want it done to everybody else, and they can either pay it off or you can finance it, and they're like a lot of people who couldn't afford the money, they financed it into their tax payment, just like a school district. That's the answer to almost all your things. 4th Street's off, where there's high density houses off the beach. They want public beach, buy it and bill them. They want to rent it so they got enough people on there, buy it all. And give an MSBU of about $200 million and spread it out among all the rental houses and pay for it. There you go. You're done. It's a great tool. I don't like at all what happened the other day because it was hijacked. We were there to talk about Dr. Harper, and y'all had that report for 2 months, and nobody had brought it forward. And then there was some hero thing about this money thrown out here. Nobody believed that. It's been 20 years of kicking this can down the road. And you're going to find out that I was right in the end. And we don't just have to need new water tests. Why are you going to discount the 25 to 30 years of Choctawhatchee Bay trends that you can already show? You're just going to discount that because and who's going to handle those water samples? If it's going to be to prove that we need to give away free septic tanks, then I want to be there when they take the samples. I got some oysters you could eat off my dock too if you're real brave. So, we just need to do something else. Inaction ain't an action. Most of these issues come from our failure to follow the comp plan. We've overloaded the beach, we built stuff where we didn't have infrastructure. That's all I hear, but there's no stopping. What I do suggest right now on the Driftwood thing, since you've got the stuff on the engineering issue, is that you demand anybody building right now submit an engineered stamp that they met with the DRI, because when they signed their building permits, they said they comply with everything, not just the approval. And you've got buildings going up in that DRI right now. Why don't you tell the engineer to guarantee it meets standards or give him a stop work order? He's got insurance. Why we got to pay for this? A lot of people got insurance for some of this stuff we're doing. It's time we held them responsible instead of the people who are just trying to live here and pay taxes. You think about it. You got other vehicles. Use them. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Harris?
Suzanne Harris, Harris, Suzanne. Maybe I misunderstood, but are we talking about using Pot 3 money to fix all the septic tanks that are leaking? Is that permissible under Pot 3?
Mr. Jones?
We are talking about using perhaps Pot 3 funds to make a determination of the issues and the problems associated with Choctawhatchee Bay.
I understand. I'm asking, has anybody asked if Pot 3 funds can be used to fix leaking septic tanks? Has that question been asked of the people who are in charge of the Pot 3 money?
I believe we will find that that was part of our submission to Pot 3, not completely, but as part of the 331 expansion that we were looking at, that was part of the request that is in the state expenditure plan. I'd have to go back and look at it to be.
Can we see the
100%.
request? Is that public?
I'm sorry?
It's a
ma'am.
request that you've done
I
public?
think it's online under Florida Consortium.
The request you filed is online?
Well, I think the, state expenditure plan, which has all 23 counties in it, is online, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Bowman, before you speak, I'm going to warn you, don't be shooting birds at the commission.
I haven't done that since you told me not to.
You did it last time. As you were leaving, you did. We're going to keep a proper
I was out in the
decorum.
hallway, so I was.
No, you were standing in the FENAC about where Commissioner,
The last
Nippert
meeting was
Zayden.
up north, so I will do my best not to shoot you a bird, and you've already started my
Thank you.
time. Coy Bowman, Bowman. I'm wondering, when you say pot 3, I was under the impression that pot 3 was the septic tank that failed, that giant tank that failed. Is this money that's supposed to be a part of rebuilding that giant tank? Is that pot 3? The giant tank.
Pot 3 is one of the 5 pots that was created by the Restore Act after the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. The funds were not designed specifically for any reason. There is a process to go through that the 23 counties that participate in Pot 3 must submit through the state expenditure plan, which has to be approved by the state, which has to be approved by the U.S. Treasury in order for those funds to ever flow to anyone.
Okay, because I was under the impression that that giant tank of human waste that broke and failed was called pot 3.
I think that was Pot 2.
You think that was pot
I'm
2?
kidding.
Well, so
I
that's
don't
my
know what
question,
pot it
is this, when you say pot 3 funds, is,
Yes, ma'am. There are 5 pots allocated through the Restore Act. You can find that online anywhere you choose to look.
okay, because I didn't know if this pot 3 money was supposed to be being used to rebuild that tank or not.
I'm not familiar with that tank, but there's roughly $12.5 to $13 million in this fund that is allocated to Walton County.
Okay, that doesn't exactly answer my question, but I guess that's all I'm going to get. When I read the regional process by which they treat our waste, at the end it says that they take the cleaned water, that's cleaned as much as they can clean it, and that it is donated to the golf courses of Sandestin and Camp Creek. That the water courses are actually being watered with used pee-pee water. And that is why Sandestin wants to move their golf course around, because they have been leaching on their golf course for so long that it's turned the ground brown. And all of that ex-human waste has soaked down into the ground and gotten into the bay, because the Waltons have been using sports complexes and golf courses as leaching fields for 30 or 40 years now. So, just so you know. Thanks.
Hollis Risley, R-I-S-L-E-Y. I've been a resident in the county here for 21 years, and I have watched the decay of the bay, and I don't think there's any denial that that's happening. Walton County, 2/3 of the bay resides in Walton County. 1/3 of the bay resides in Okaloosa County. Has the commission approached Okaloosa County with the problems that we're experiencing? Because the water is a jointly shared. So I asked the commission, has anybody approached Okaloosa County to see whether or not they're involved, would want to be involved with the restoration?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Ms. Grizzly, I'm sit on the board for the Choctawhatchee Bay Basin Alliance, not the CBA, but it's another subsidiary where our function is to look at what's happening in the bay, seeing what measures that we can help either facilitate or champion with the state or the feds to do that. We also reached out several months ago at my request, because whatever happens in the bay is not restricted to Walton County.
Correct.
There are 6 counties that the watershed is in Alabama, and all of their runoff goes into those tributaries, which eventually get in the Pea River or the Choctawhatchee Bay, which ends Choctawhatchee River and then into the bay. So we did manage to get a representative from there, like our EPA, to sit on our board, and we discussed measures that are coming up and methods that we may be able to use to help facilitate cleaning it up. But first thing we're trying to do is collect the data to find out which areas of the bay, and that's the 5 that Commissioner Glidewell has been referring to go ahead and do that sampling. Some of it's probably already been done, but I don't know how recent it is, but we want to try and get those, the most current data, so we will know that we'll fill into what we're trying to do here and using the funding sources, either Pot 3 or whatever, to try and use to help start addressing those problems within the bay.
That's great, but I think there needs to be a plan with responsibilities established as to who's going to do what by when. And, you know, we can't sit here for the next year and fiddle with this. It needs you know, an exigent attention.
Right. I understand where you're going on that, but the thing about it, we first got to address where the priority is. And they're doing some studies. The CBA sits on our council also and is willing to assist as far as what they can do for providing that data. And then we got to take and, believe it or not, analyze the data and find out, okay, priority 1 is over here and 2, and then find the funding source to go to it.
Well, I'm over time here. I urge you to make this a high priority for the county going forward.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Seeing none? Oh,
If I may, just a little bit more of explanation. The Pot 3 funds is $12.5–13 million that's allocated to Walton County. It's part of a fund that's spread along 23 of the counties that touch the Gulf of Mexico. In order to access those funds, there is an application process which requires certain things. The application that we submitted was in conjunction with the water sewer project along 331 to act as matching funds to the Triumph project. Well, when the Triumph project, when we scored a C and they weren't moving more than B's forward at the time, we realized those funds are now were now available for other process. What we're hoping we can do is utilize the same criteria we've put in that application, which is very similar to what was going on with the Triumph request and part and parcel of it, but to utilize that so we don't slow the process down where we have to pull back, regroup, make changes in the state expenditure plan and have that plan revised and move forward. So that's the information we've gathered from the management group of the Pot 3, is that in order to do what we asked to do, they would have told us the first thing you have to do is this study of the bay and the analysis to determine where the issues lie, what's causing the issues, and what the mitigation plan to correct them are. So I hope that it is an explanation that
Mr.
makes
Jones,
sense to you. Yes, sir.
This 13 million under Pot 3 is over an 18-year period?
Yes, sir.
So
15, I believe.
So
It's over time.
maybe
It's not all, it's not sitting
all
in a
at one
bank
time,
somewhere
and
waiting
so
for us
it's
to
like
draw it
maybe
down.
$1.5 million
Right.
a year.
Mr. Chairman, one thing, I don't think there's any magic bullet out there, one funding source. We're gonna have to have a lot of funding sources to fix the bay. But one thing we did find in discussions last week with our congressional and senators, our congressmen and our senators, was there may be some funding on the federal side for, especially for the septic tanks, both on the dune lakes and on the shore. and there may be some federal dollars that would help us with stormwater treatment. So, and I believe our governor is also planning to spend a lot of money in the next couple of years on water quality, mainly in the south, but I think if we ask our lobbyists in Tallahassee to at least start exploring that. So as part of this, I'd like to ask that we make sure our lobbyists in Washington and Tallahassee are looking for those funds, and that we're aggressively pursuing those funds, because we need all the dollars we can get to clean the bay up, and that should be a big priority. And Mr. Risley is exactly right. We need to do whatever we can do, but any assistance we can get from the feds and from the state, we need to get. So,
Yes, sir.
and I believe if y'all would contact our lobbyists, they will be glad to help us.
And just, Commissioner, just for your information, I had a talk with our lobbyists in Washington about the same thing, and he assured me that there was plenty of sources for water quality in the bay in Washington. We've just got to get I think we need this analysis first before we can even ask for any of that money.
Yeah, I've been talking to them as well, and data is necessary.
Yeah.
And until we have good data, we're gonna be behind the 8 ball. But if we act now to get good data, with the data that Mr. Chapman's group has already gathered, and get that to our lobbyists, I think we got a good chance.
Yes, sir.
This is a 2-state problem, and we could really utilize those funds if we can get them, but we gotta ask for them first.
Okay? What's the board's wishes? We've already had a motion and a second. What's the board's wishes? All in favor say aye. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next request is to close both lanes of County Road 38 from the east gate of the preserve. Did I miss one?
You
Yeah, I
jumped
did.
one.
I'm sorry, let me back up to 20. This request is to approve, to draft a request for a proposal and a scope of services for the renovation and restoration of the old 3rd floor courtroom and the associated office in the Walton County Courthouse in Defuniak, and to obtain estimated cost and funding associated with the renovation project. We're not asking to go out and begin any work. We would just like to do an analysis and know what the issues are and what needs to be done to restore it back to its historical appearance and integrity, and what that's going to cost. And then at that point, we will know from a budget standpoint if we wish to budget any funds for that. Are there historical funds available? But we'll just, as we were talking, about the bay, we'll have the data we need in order to go and try to procure the funding to get the work done at that point. But this doesn't approve us to go do any work or expend any funds. All that will come back to you at appropriate time.
What's the
Mr.
board's
Jones.
wishes?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, go ahead.
didn't we just recently go through an asbestos?
We did.
Okay. Well, then I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve staff to move forward for a request for a proposal for the renovation and restoration of the old 3rd floor courtroom.
Second.
Any more discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
All right, let's try again on the request from Paul Vazard to close both lanes of a portion of County Road 38 from the east gate of the preserve to County Road 393 at Gulf Place for the 12th Annual St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 16, 2019, beginning at 3 p.m. They believe they have all their approvals in from the Sheriff's Office and the Fire Department. So, as you're aware, when it's a request to close both lanes, it comes to you for your approval.
Is the applicant here? I don't see the applicant. I noticed one of the notes from the sheriff's office is they waited right here to the last minute to ask for this approval. And it could put them in a position of where they can fill the number of deputies that they need for traffic control, even though they went on ahead and approved it. But I think if you've done it 12 years in a row, you don't turn it in here at the 11th hour. You ought to get it in ahead of time so they can make arrangements.
Do we have a policy about these sort of things and how soon you need to have them turned in and all that good stuff?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
They're supposed to be in 45 days prior to the event. Obviously, this one was not there.
Turned in around the first of the month, I believe.
I have to look and see for sure, yes, sir.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve it with a caveat. If they don't adhere to the policy with a 45-day lead time, it won't be approved the following year.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion with the board?
Not real happy with approving things like this.
Oh, I know.
Right in the middle of,
Well,
right at the
it's,
last minute.
it's, the thing that bothers me, this is spring break, and we're closing 2 lanes, and I know last year we closed 1 lane. I don't know why this year we have to close both lanes.
I think that was the sheriff's office recommendation. It says close both lanes.
That makes it,
Larry, did you get a, time limit on the parade?
Beginning at 3 p.m., I did not see an ending time, but we can make it whatever you desire to make it.
Well, as quick as possible.
When did they hold it last year? Is it the same time frame? Anybody know?
Yeah, March 18th of
March
last year.
18th? Spring break.
Well, it is St. Patrick's Day.
Well, either way, spring break's going on.
I think the problem is too this year, spring break started a little earlier, but, any discussion from the audience?
I was gonna say, I don't have a problem, but if we're, every year, it seems like we have a group or two that come and want us to approve things, and there's a clear policy, and at some point, you got to enforce the policy.
I don't think there is much of a policy other than the 45 days prior, right?
Mhm.
I think policy is necessary.
Yeah.
Ms. Commander's voice was very strong about closing both lanes and coming up with a policy. Is there a way we can direct staff and,
Yeah, we could, Mr. Chapman, you can amend your motion to direct staff to come up with a policy for future lane closures, if you want to.
Maybe a comprehensive policy about the whole thing,
Well-
including some deadlines.
Well, one of the things is anytime both lanes are closed, it has to be approved by the board.
Well, they're saying here 45 minutes is what they anticipate this taking place. That won't happen.
It's not long. It's not long. I was in it last year, so it doesn't take too long. Any comment from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
I want to comment to staff,
Got it.
when they come back next year, if they're late on getting it, tell them they can pack it up and go somewhere else.
Yes, sir.
And that was the reason I voted no, was because it was not, at some point, you gotta say, you gotta enforce the policy.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is issue we addressed last meeting perhaps about some appointments that we needed. And those are there in your book. If you're ready to proceed with those, we're glad to.
Mr. Jones, I would prefer that we put it off another 2 weeks.
Okay?
I'm still talking to some people
Okay.
that,
I know the District 4 commissioner's not here to make his, so if the board wishes to, you know,
if that's all right with the board.
just table it for 2
That's
weeks,
fine
we can
with
do that.
Okay.
So the motion.
And
Okay.
we'll put it on the 26th agenda. Okay.
Okay. Next item is, beginning with Public Works, is a request to award and approve and authorize the chair to sign contract number 19-012 for artificial reef construction and employment services with David M. Walter, doing business as Walter Marine. As you're aware, we've been fortunate in receiving numerous grants to deploy, purchase and deploy fishing reefs, and this is another one. These are, again, grant funds. So it's just a matter of moving this contract forward with Walter Marine in order to get these units deployed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any more discussion? Any discussion from the floor? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is request to award and approve and authorize the chair to sign contract 019-011 for State Road 83, which is US Highway 331, landscape improvements from Bay Grove Road to Short Avenue with the lowest, most responsive bidder, which was Piney Grove Nursery and Landscaping, in the amount not to exceed $63,846.75. This will be landscaping for the north end of the Choctawhatchee Bay Bridge. We asked to work with the DOT. This is what they approved. We put it out for bid. This was the result of those bids, and the funds will be generated from the excess revenue from the bridge tax that's is available.
Motion to approve.
Second comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
This is gonna be reimbursed by the state, is it not?
Now, we've got funds.
Well, I understand it, but according to the book here, DOT will reimburse the county for 100% of the actual cost directed to this phase of the project, not to exceed 60,000.
That was my understanding, was that we were getting 60,000 in a grant, and that the other 3,000 and change was coming out of bridge money.
Okay.
That's what it says in the book.
Okay, so is that your motion? Is
Yes.
just the excess above 60,000 from the
Yes.
state? I'll amend my second.
Any more discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Next item is request to award and approve and authorize the chair to sign contract 019-010 for construction contract for Legion Park seawall improvements with the lowest responsible bidder, which was Harters and Sons, and the amount not to exceed $388,228. This project is located on the north side of 98 Miramar Beach, on the south shoreline of Choctawhatchee Bay and Legion Park. We need to demolish the existing steel sheet pile, vinyl wall and concrete cap because of the current condition of it. The proposed work will install 356 linear feet or the equivalent of a coated steel sheet pile and the appropriate inlet and stormwater improvements there. I think we've got some erosion that's going to cause us some serious damage if we don't make these corrections fairly soon. So we would recommend we move forward with that.
What's the board's wishes?
Motion to approve.
We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Thank you,
Mr. Tusa,
Commissioners.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We have a few things on the agenda today. First up, we have let me find my correct item here. Number 26, presentation of the TDC 2019 through 2021 strategic plan by DMO Pros. And at the conclusion of that presentation, we will be asking for the board to approve that strategic plan so we can put that in place. Strategic plan is our guiding document. It's our goals and objectives, and it's what we will be doing and working on in the next 3 years. So very important document. And with that said, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bill Geis from DMO Pros. He'll be presenting the plan to you here this afternoon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to present the draft strategic plan for Visit South Walton. DMO Pros has been working with destination marketing organizations across the country since 1995.
Sir,
Our partner,
would you
Spell your
spell
name,
your
I'm
name
sorry.
for the clerk? Thank you.
last name G-E-I-S-T, Geist.
Thank you.
Thank you. My partner, who's in the gallery, Terry White, and I were elated to get the call from Jay to assist about 6 or 7 months ago with the development of a new updated strategic plan for the next 3 years. On this assignment, actually this isn't the deck, this is the actual document. On this assignment, there we go, perfect. We put together a team that we added one more person to the team, and that was Renee Orang, a very accomplished destination marketing professional, has done some work in Mississippi. She's currently the CEO of Brookhaven, Georgia. But in that interim between those two, we took the advantage of having Renee join us because she is an annual visitor. And we thought that our third-party eyes coming in, not having been conversant in the beaches of South Walton, I mean, we've been here before, but not like Renee. Renee's here every single year and has been for decades. We thought that that balance would bring you, I think, a much better understanding of what the opportunities are out there in front of this destination. So we began with a deep dive into the opinions and visions of the community, industry stakeholders, community leaders, residents. We did both an online survey and several days of face-to-face interaction through face-to-face interviews and focus groups. And from these conversations and the survey results, we identified 4 basic areas of attention that we wanted to focus on. One is infrastructure, one is branding, another community relations, and the final one is sales and marketing. And we used mind maps, as you see on the screen, to visually identify all the opportunities that we felt we identified from all those conversations that we had throughout this county. Ultimately, we condensed them down to 3 goals, and my guess is you've had time to spend with the document, so I'm going to go very quickly through it, but I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have. So one of those goals is to improve the destination's ability to enhance the visitor experience. And Objective A, top of the line, is continue to upgrade the beach experience. And I congratulate you. You're already moving down that path without having approved this plan through your recent approval of beach activities ordinance and managed vendor programs. Objective B is to work collaboratively with transportation interests and agencies to enhance mobility and parking throughout the county, continuing to support shoulder season festivals and events to drive business when you need it most, analyze opportunities to enhance the destination's aesthetics as people move in and out of the destination. That first opinion is so vital. And Objective E is to analyze opportunities to develop additional entertainment opportunities for the visitors and residents that are here. Our next goal, and we don't number the goals because numbering connotes that there's a chronological order. We think all 3 of these go at the same time. So the next goal that we've identified is to increase the community's understanding of and support for a thoughtfully planned visitor economy. In this world where we are seeing in some places across the globe of resident pushback because tourists have reached a breaking point, we wanted to be very mindful at the TDC and Visit South Walton to make sure that the development that is being advocated for is just that it is thoughtful, it is sustainable. And so our objectives in this is to continue to keep residents informed of the TDC's work. Across the country, residents tend not to really understand the art and science of destination marketing and what it means for them in their everyday lives. Objective B is to engage industry partners in the effort to protect the visitor economy and the destination brand. Objective C, to continue to facilitate the development of industry workforce and to also develop a clear and coherent and sustainable destination vision for the county. And finally, the third goal is to continue to expand the destination's capture of new visitors. The objectives here continue to evolve marketing to leisure travel consumers in a rapidly changing world, to continue to enhance efforts to attract more group, meetings, and convention and conference business to South Walton, which is something that the industry is really calling for. Objective C is to work with industry partners to collaboratively promote the South Walton brand, and finally, to continue to analyze opportunities to promote attractions in North Walton to expand the desirability of the destination. In the document in front of you, of course, this is the executive summary. The full strategic plan, I think, begins on page 5 or 6, and that is fleshed out with a lot more detail under each one of those objectives, but in the interest of time, I know you have a busy schedule today. I'll just take questions at this point. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, what's the board's wishes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Thank you,
all.
Mr. Geis.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Brian Kellenberger, Director of Beach Operations. Appreciate your time. A few items of business today. First one is request approval to amend the effective date for the agreement for concession services for the managed vendor program to begin April 7th, 2019 and end November 30th. In our last meeting, or the special meeting we had to approve this concession agreement, we didn't discuss the effective dates. The draft copy had March 1st. That would be a little quick for somebody to get started up on a decision made on February 28th.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Brian, is there any concern regarding turtle season if we push this off a little bit?
No, ma'am.
Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Thanks, sir.
opposed say nay.
Next item is request approval to add 4 full-time employee beach ambassadors and associated equipment to the Beach Operations Department at a cost not to exceed $235,000. That would be for a full year of employment. First year with the equipment expenditure would be around $160,000, and each year after that would be around $180,000.
How many beach ambassadors does this give us with these 4?
This will be 7 total full-time employees.
And
Right now,
how are we gonna staff those? I mean, where are we gonna staff those?
primarily, we're going to be staffing them at the 2 beach accesses where we have the managed vendor program. A beach ambassador was, always included in that project. And the other ones will also be at other regional beach accesses and in close proximity to those. I found that I get better productivity out of the beach ambassador as a static employee in the morning, and then moving up and down the beach in the afternoon. We'll need to add some more as we increase this program if we choose to do so next year. But the beach ambassadors, they fulfill an important role on the beach, especially with this new managed vendor program.
And they're gonna coordinate with the volunteer?
We already do that. So we work real close with the Volunteer Beach Ambassador Group, and Laurie's group helps us in our endeavor of informing people of not only rules and regulations, but of also beach etiquette and other good things about South Walton.
Do they have communication?
They do. We're all connected by
So
phone.
they can call a code, if there's a problem, they can call code enforcement?
Yes, sir.
So we can get
Yep.
something done?
Oh, yeah.
What's the board's wishes?
Motion to approve?
We have a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Mr. Osborne.
For the record, Alan Osborne, what are the qualifications for a beach ambassador? How do you interview and advertise that? And what do they do in January when there's nobody on the beach? Thank you.
Good question. Appreciate it, Mr. Osborne. The job description is posted on our website, but basically we ask for people that have some experience in customer service, have knowledge of Walton County, understand our codes. We do put them through a training program to bring them up to complete knowledge of the things I just mentioned. And in January, we actually use these people to go out with our visitor center employees and also with our industry partner employees to make contact with our industry partners and other people that are in the tourism industry.
Anybody else from the audience? Seeing none, what's the board's wishes? Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Thank you, sir. Next item is request direction on the Ramsgate Neighborhood Beach Access Renovation Project. This is a project down in the Eastern Lake community. It's part of a 5 neighborhood beach access renovation contract. We issued 2 contracts at the same time for a total of 10. Contractor has got started on all these, completed some of them. When we put the signs out for this particular project, we started getting some notifications from the immediate community that it may compromise some of their rental revenue. And so we're asking direction from this board on what to do with that project. We offered up a couple of options. One of them is to postpone this construction of this particular boardwalk until November 1st for a total of adding $65,000 to the contract. Option 2 would be to omit this project completely from the contract for a deduct of $18,000. And third option is to continue on with the contract. We would need to add 14 days to the contractor's schedule for the 2 weeks he has postponed this already at no cost.
Where will that put us in turtle season?
Pardon me?
Where would that put us in turtle season?
If we postpone it till November
Yeah.
1st, it'll be after turtle season.
Huh?
That'll be after the last day of turtle season. If we postpone it to November 1st,
No, I'm talking about if we continue on with it.
we'll be fine.
We would, okay. What's the board's wishes?
Okay. Why is there only an $18,000 savings to, I don't think option 2 is an option at all, but just for my own edification, only $18,000 saved to.
Yes, sir. It's basically the materials that would be used on that project. Since the contractor came over to do 10 boardwalks, he brought over a team of labor that he was going to use to build concurrently. Since we're, considering modifying this contract for convenience, he is due, his overhead and profit that he is, basically his opportunity costs.
Will this be added to one of the next groups?
It can be. Like I said, we have all of our beach accesses, they've been permitted now, and we will be letting contracts in typically 5 or 6 boardwalks per contract. We won't do any more until after turtle season. We want to get this round done. We had anticipated getting started earlier, but permitting and procurement suffered a few setbacks and put us further back in the year.
I might be on the wrong project, but is the permit only good for 1 year?
Permit's good for 1 year. I feel comfortable we can probably get an extension from FDEP for it.
Would you explain the history of this, the delays you've had and?
Right, so
with
all these
permitting?
so we started on 2016 and 2017, identifying the boardwalks that need to be what I call a facelift, which is new deck boards, new handrails, and then structure as required per the engineer records report. Then we started the permitting process, and we chose to use the administrative permit process versus the field permit process. We felt it'd be a better way to go since we were doing all of them at one time. That took some time to maneuver through all that with the FDEP. We finally got through all of it, and now we have these projects sitting on the shelf, ready to be contracted out. And we attempt to do them in what we call the off-season. However, the off-season is very short now. In fact, it probably is December and January, to be honest with you. And to land the permitting and the procurement all at the same time proved difficult for this first round. As we go through the next one, we will obviously not suffer any procurement issues. And we'll have projects ready to start after November 1st. We'll probably start them actually after Thanksgiving because we're busy through Thanksgiving season. And we'll attempt to do as many as we can before spring break hits the following year.
Well, Mr. Chairman, option 1 to me is not right either. $65,000 to delay it from now to after November 1st. And I know the majority of that, because if it looks like it's about 18,000 deduct if you don't do it right now. So the rest of it's mobilization to get the crews back down there
Yes,
after
sir.
several months.
Right.
So option one, I don't think is appropriate. I think my recommendation, I'll make it in the form of a motion that we omit Ramsgate for $18,000, and it'll be addressed at a future time whenever the second phase or whatever comes up.
Yes, sir.
Option 2, in other words. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion?
So when are we going to, when's the next round? Because, I mean, it's on the list because it needs to be done.
Yes,
but-
sir. We'll start the
but it doesn't
procurement.
need to be done
phase-
right now, so.
Right, we'll start the procurement phase, middle of summer, and that way we'll have them lined up, ready to be contracted out, that we can start November 1st. However, because of the opposition that we have received, I don't want to call it opposition, because of the notifications we've received on this particular project and another project on the other side of the lake, we're going to change how we notify the immediate community. And I predict that there may be some additional notices of inconvenience from other communities or other people when we try to do these projects. The simple fact is there's really not a great time to build these boardwalks. The best time is obviously in what we call the off-season. But to be quite honest with you, I mean, if you look at our numbers that our research department does, we have people here at all times of the year. It's just a different group of people. There is a little bit less people here during the winter months, but we still have people here. Almost every project we do now, whether it's renovation or new construction, we receive some form of notification of inconvenience about it. So, but we've learned a few lessons on this one. We'll make sure everybody's completely aware well in advance. And if anybody has grief at that time, they can express it and we can make decisions moving forward on those.
The thing is, we do have people down here all the time, but we don't have people down here like spring break in our season
I agree.
during the winter.
I agree. And we had hoped to get these done before
And
spring
as
break.
you know, we went through Seagrove yesterday, and
Oh, yeah.
it's crazy busy.
It is.
And that particular area is majority, and I'd say great majority, is rental units.
The other problem with this one is the lack of options in other places, and
Correct.
and that the
Exactly.
Eastern Lakeland is, the outfall's shifted, so now
Yeah.
basically you have to either walk in the water or swim
Yeah.
to use it, so.
This one and the other one that we received a lot of notification on of inconvenience was, they service a large area and there's not an alternate, a close alternate. Whereas in Seagrove, Seacrest, we have, some that are close by that don't create too much of inconvenience to have to walk a block. But part of the notification process we're gonna let people know is that, in the future, this boardwalk, is subject to be closed for renovation for approximately 4 weeks. I wish I could pinpoint them down better, but because of the permitting and procurement, permitting is not gonna be an issue now, but procurement is. Like the last boardwalk project we just took bids on, the bids came in too high, and our recommendation in 2 weeks will be to not accept the bid. And so if we would have notified people that we were gonna start, we wouldn't start, because now we've got to start that process over again. But as soon as we know that we have a bid that is approved by this board, we start the notification process of the immediate construction project. But we're going to do a better job of letting people know that all these boardwalks are subject to closure in the future for a period of time.
Okay, any more? Danny? Melanie? Be prepared, we're gonna have some people speaking. Anybody from the audience wants to speak on this issue? Please state your name and spell your last name.
Robert Kaufman, Kauffman. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm an attorney with Dunlap and Shipman representing the Summers Edge Homeowners Association. which is a 68 parcel community just to the north of the property that you've been discussing. I'm going to change and shorten my comments based on the tenor of the conversation so far and say on behalf of Summer's Edge that we appreciate the consideration the Commission's giving to the input you've received from the community. I know my client also appreciates the TDC's response. Once Summer's Edge became aware of this issue a couple weeks ago, they've worked with Mr. Kellenberger and several people at the TDC. I do want to point out that this is not just a matter of inconvenience here. Summer's Edge actually has a private easement over this exact same property that the walkover is located. It's a private easement for ingress and egress to the beach. And this was originally indicated that it was a 6-week project, and that ingress-egress easement would be completely shut down for the duration of the project. And they were not given any direct notification, nor was the project coordinated with them. I understand you've received a letter from the Ramsgate Townhomes as well, which is the actual owner of the property, indicating that they had some specific concerns regarding their structure as well. You know, as was indicated, this is an issue of short notice and potential lost rental revenue, but it's also an issue of residents and not being able to access the beach at all. This is an especially poor time to have this particular access shut down. As you know, it was indicated in a letter that was sent, the Eastern Lake access apparently has some severe erosion issues, and there's a sign up there, presumably was put up there by the TDC for safety purposes, advising the public in general to use the Ramsgate access as opposed to the Eastern Lake access. And with both of those shut down, I believe the next nearest access is the 1 Seagrove Place access. So at that point, we're really talking about driving and fighting 38 traffic. And you know, in the presentation a few minutes ago, I wrote this down because it was a good phrase. We're trying to enhance and protect our destination brand. We don't want these folks, certainly residents, but also the folks who are visiting down here and are renting a place steps from the beach, to have to drive, you know, potentially 20 minutes in 38 traffic to get to the beach. That's not how we enhance our brand. So we appreciate the Commission's consideration, and we just ask that you vote to approve the motion on the table to perform the work as soon as possible after November 1st.
Okay, Mr. Kaufman, I appreciate what you said. I hope the residents in the area also appreciate there is going to possibly be a time that we're going to have to shut it down. And hopefully it's well, right now it's going to be after the season. But like we said, the season isn't ending in October anymore. It goes on in.
Yes, sir.
So I hope they understand that there might be some issue there, November, December, that it'll be closed for several weeks, and to understand that and not fire bullets at us for, you know, why you got my access shut.
Yes, sir. I believe they do understand that, and the short notice was, I believe, the primary issue in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Wow. Seeing no more, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners, appreciate it.
All right, I'm back just to finish up the TDC. Just have one more agenda item and then a quick update. So at the last meeting, I brought up an opportunity in Miramar Beach. It was not an agenda item, it was just as an update, so I wanted to get some direction from the board, and the direction was bring it back as an agenda item so we can discuss it formally. So that's number 30, request direction on property parcel number 302S21420000020000, and that's for property located in Miramar Beach for a potential sports complex. This is the Golf Garden property at the intersection of Driftwood Road and Highway 98. So I had found the old feasibility study that was done in 2011, and I forwarded that on to the commissioners for your review. There was one part in particular that was very easy to read. It was a SWOT analysis, gave you all the strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And so I wanted to get some direction from the board on where you'd like to go with this. I thought some facts were interesting in that SWOT analysis. You know, evidently, you know, it was presented as a weakness was our high average daily rate, and then the time our season ran that might conflict with sports season. And so, you know, with this being 8 years old at this point, if we wanted to move forward, it might be prudent that we do another feasibility study. Now, I will say, in speaking with the developer, I don't know if time is on our side for for this property with that. They said they might be willing to give us a month or so, and we made some phone calls to some companies that do feasibility studies, and we're looking anywhere from 2 to 4 months to get a feasibility study done. So, not sure how you want to move forward, but just kind of wanted to give you that information so you can kind of give me some direction on what you'd like to do.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
This is probably arguably one of the few remaining parcels in Miramar Beach of any size to put anything on. So, and there is a severe need for public parks in Miramar Beach. I don't think anybody would argue with that. So, sometimes you have to strike while the iron's hot, and I don't think we're going to get another shot if we don't. This property, at least we could get an appraisal on it, and at least you could give you the authority to negotiate, and make sure that the neighbors understand that we're not talking about putting ball fields out here. We're talking about an indoor sports park, or sports complex, which would house basketball and volleyball, and a swimming area that would be big enough to host competitive swimming events. So in other words, it would be a nice park that would draw residents. And while I'm not in this feasibility study business, generally basketball, volleyball, competitive cheerleading, which are the type of events we would be wanting to get, and swimming are high. Those are high demographics as far as income. So those people would probably like to stay in Sandestin. I know in the winter, Christmas, Sandestin brings in a lot of basketball teams that are willing to pay the price.
They also have a reduced price.
They have a reduced price
for those
but,
people.
But we could work it out.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
the thing is, you know, I've had friends involved in all sorts of travel ball, and a lot of these kids are playing 75 to 100 games a year, and they're looking for the cheapest place they can stay. And I'm not saying I'm opposed to this, but I think the first thing we need to do, if we're considering this, is to go out and get a appraisal on the property.
Okay.
And, but I would be real leery about going anywhere past that without a new feasibility study. I think, you know, that's a big piece of property, and although I'd love to have it, I'm the sports park guy on the board, but, if for a sports park locally, I think it would be a good thing. I don't know that we need to pin our hopes on travel ball, though. So if that's my suggestion. And
Mr. Chair, I don't think 25 acres is big enough for this feasibility. The smallest one was 79 acres. Okay, 2011, 79 acres is telling me that, and Commissioner Chapman said the same thing, and I'll echo it. We need something in the north end. I think we need a feasibility study before we move forward. But 25 acres is not enough for a ball field. I know we're
No.
talking indoor sports.
Yeah, we're not talking about ball fields here. You're exactly right. This is not big enough for ball fields, but it is big enough for a multi-purpose building and for a pool that we could use for our schools. And if you don't tie it to tourism,
Yeah.
then Jay's out of helping us.
And the other thing I want to know is where are the funds coming from to build that pool? Because we've all been here for years talking about building a pool in the south end, and it's never come to fruition. Is it going to be the TDC, or is it going to be the county?
Well,
Depends on what the
Intent is.
right.
well, and what it will be used for.
Yeah.
So if we're marketing it, if we're marketing it, then we do have the possibility of using TDC funds to purchase the property and to construct the improvements. But if this is intended for residents of Walton County, then we won't be able to do that.
Well, that's why I was very careful to say tournaments and things of that nature, because I want Jay to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the beach is for
Well-
the residents and our
well-
tourists, so there's really a fine line there,
Yeah.
I feel like.
I will say if TDT funds are going to be used, I would make a recommendation to the board. You know, we've talked about the fifth penny, the high impact penny, but we may want to look at a penny for sports. I mean, there is a penny for that. You know, just for the amount of money we're talking about, I think with our existing dollars, we'd be hard pressed. We'd have to cut somewhere else, and I just don't know. That's up to the board if you want to cut somewhere else, but we'd have to figure that out.
I think what you have to remember, and I've done a little bit of sports, and places like Troy and Dothan and all, they use the facilities during the week when there are no travel opportunities for their locals and for residents. So, and then on the weekends, they have the tournament. So it's sort of a win-win. Yeah, I don't know I mean, I've been to facilities all over the southeast, and they have some beautiful places and some places you wouldn't think of. And but they're also generating tourist dollars, which generate income and economic activity, and it's at least worth exploring. And that's my aim, is to at least let's talk about it and get an appraisal of the property and see.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay, we have to get clarification. Motion to go ahead and
Do an appraisal.
Do an appraisal.
And also a new updated feasibility study.
Well, if I may, Commissioner, so why don't I go back and talk to some of these firms and see, we might be able to do it as a request for quotes if it's under $50,000. The prices that we were getting when we called, it was all right around $50,000. So if it's under 50, we can just do a request for quotes, and it doesn't have to be an RFP or an RFQ. Now, I will say, I honestly think for what we're talking about, it probably should be an RFQ, just so we make sure we're getting a good firm to do this, which an RFQ is going to take us time. I mean, just for us to put that out there, review everything, I mean, you're probably looking at a month to 6 weeks just to select the firm before they can even get going. So when you throw in the other, 2 to 4 months that I mentioned earlier, you're looking at then 3 to 5 months.
That's the motion, but you can go on 2 tracks. We can get the appraisal, and they can start the process, and then, if it comes back, the appraisal may come back as something that we can't even talk about, so.
Well, the ask on that was $6.5 million,
Correct.
correct?
For the back 25.
So,
we're typically, appraisals are very close to ask.
but at least we'll have something to talk about that we know.
And also, if I may, with the board interested in this, I could talk to the developer and say, listen, the board is very interested in this, but we really feel a feasibility study is the best way for us to go at this point. Are you willing to give us 4 months, 6 months, however long we think it might be, and just go back to them and ask them if they are willing. I mean, since we're moving forward appraisals, and y'all are interested in this to move forward, they might very well be interested in extending us a little bit more time than that initial month that they gave me last time when I spoke to you.
Let's try that at least.
Any more comments from the board?
One thing, and I know we're talking about size, I'm the one talking about the 25 acres. I've had a lot of interest from people wanting pickleball, and that's 4 courts in the size of a tennis court. So I think we need to add a little bit of maybe public opinion as to what goes in the
Well, that would be part of the feasibility process. If we go that route, we'd get input on that and what, the needs are, and then we'd find out from the vendor what we can support here from a local's perspective and from bringing people in perspective.
And that's the beauty of this side. If you build this building correctly, it's multi-purpose, and you could do pickleball during the week very easily. That's no problem. And you could have 4 to 6 games going on at one time.
Well, that's something we can discuss at another meeting. Let's go ahead, and if there's no more comment, Mr. Osborne, you.
For the record, Alan Osborne, I think y'all are making this a little hard. Let's get down to the facts. There ain't much land left in South Walton. Only thing that really matters is how much wetlands is on it, okay? Because you got to delineate it, you got to deal with your own rules. So there was nothing that would stop you from getting an appraisal and deciding how much buildable land you got. You can always hash it out later, but God ain't making no more land, okay? He's just not making no more. And I have watched this county blow it time and time again trying to get the exact answer when the basic answer was we need the land. Now, if you don't give kids something to do, they're going to get in trouble. And this board, and I'm going to say you, but a lot of it applies to past boards, have platted enough down here that I think the TDC guy ought to worry about the war on the beach when they get here this year, fair warning, I don't know what y'all think, but we don't need advertisement. I sit in traffic nonstop. We're overloaded. Our kids can't go nowhere. They ain't got time to drive the north end of the county. That's a trek. Y'all drive down here, you know. Do not miss the opportunity to buy land, even if you can't afford to build on it yet. Find out how much buildable land it has and make a determination of what we need down here. Now, I got other news for you too. When you play ball, even if you're from here, and you play a team from somewhere else and they eat at Culver's or Hardee's or whatever, that's business, that's tourism. They came here to spend dollars. I've watched y'all jump around massive rules, and you're gonna trip over semantics. If they're not from here, they're drive-through tourists, okay? That's infrastructure. We need it. You're out of it. I just don't understand why we make this so hard. Even if we can't do that, we absolutely know that there's more buildable land north of the bay than there is south of the bay. Even if you can't afford to build it, buy it. I commend you for what you said, Danny. Do not sell land, even that farmer's market. Fine, tear the building down, but don't sell it. It's frontage road. In 1999, y'all sold a huge parcel on Mac Bayou Road, platted for a school because we didn't need it. We needed vision. We turned around and paid, what, $40 million for school land later on? We sold that thing for like $400,000. That land will not get any cheaper, and you'll never get cheaper trying to put a big piece together. Buy every big piece for the public you can. Buy every beachfront parcel you can. Open every beach access you can, because we're already overloaded. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim Bagby again. What happened to the conversation about the 22.5 acres of the old spray fields for South Walton Utilities? Okay, that is a great piece of property. I would remind you that the Morgan Sports Park over in Destin that brings in a lot of traveling teams was built on the old spray fields for Destin for their wastewater. So before you go overpay for a golf course that you're not going to use as a golf course, I would get with South Walton or the utility company and ask them, because we had entered discussions with them before about 4 or 5 years ago, and they're not going to use them. So you might as well use them, and you can probably get a heck of a lot better price, and you don't have to worry about the wetlands.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Bagby?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I don't think, just to explain, I don't think that we're talking about either or.
Right.
And I believe Mr. Touza would tell you we would like both of them.
Yeah.
For two different things. One for ball fields, which would be the spray fields, and the other for but you're right.
Everything you're putting on here, you could put on those spray fields.
Well,
anything you build.
There could be ball fields and open air spaces on the spray fields, but based on my conversation with Mr. Touza, we are talking about the spray fields, and that might be a different opportunity.
But everything you're wanting to put on here, you could put on the spray fields, and I guarantee you'll get that spray field property for a lot less money than you're going to pay for this property.
Well, and that's why we're asking for appraisal.
Okay, well, I would get an appraisal on both, as
Yeah,
long as you get
we're
appraisals.
looking at that. This is the one we're talking about right now.
Thanks.
Coy Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N. If you read the most recent document on the property appraiser's website, it says that you've already been using this golf course as a spray field for 24 years. So I don't doubt that you want to build a building on it, because I doubt a single blade of grass can grow there anymore. There's so much pee on it.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Chair, can we ask staff to also consider the spray fields?
Sure. You want to amend your motion, Danny, to do that?
Yeah.
I've already been kind of working on that, and we talked about that at the last
Well,
meeting as well.
Jay, and I'm sorry, this may have changed, but it wouldn't be to purchase
It would not.
those.
No.
I did speak to them a while back when we purchased the Amalfi Coast
Right.
property
Okay.
about parking for that beach access, and they said They were looking for a larger project to benefit the public beyond just the parking lot. They were interested in some type of recreational sports facility, but it would be a long-term lease. It would not be a sale.
But if I will amend the motion that we also give him permission to talk to South Walton Utilities about the spray fields. My understanding was that was a long-term lease, which is different than buying.
Yeah.
We'll include that if that's all right with, who's second?
Is that all right with you, Mr. Chapman?
I'll amend it.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Great, thank you. And then just one update, January numbers are in for TDT collections, and we are up 22.67% for a total of $614,975. So very good month for January. And that's it for me, unless you have any questions.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Noyes?
Yes, Commissioners, I just have a few items. Item number 32 is a request to reschedule the public hearing to amend the building department fee ordinance to March 26, 2019 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Item number 33 is a request to advertise and schedule a public hearing to consider an amendment to the Parks and Recreation Ordinance to allow alcoholic beverages at the Definiak Springs Country Club. What I would recommend is that we also hold this public hearing on March 26, 2019 at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay.
Commissioners, item number 34 is a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign the closing documents to sell 4.95 acres in the Mossy Head Industrial Park.
What's the board's wishes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Okay. And then items number 35 and 36 are related. Number 35 is a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign a legislative finding for the purchase of the 393 property. This is the property that you guys entered into the contract on, I want to say like a month ago, maybe 2 meetings ago. And I apologize, I had neglected to get this on Granicus, so I'm sorry. I've got extra copies if anybody wants to see them. But it's a standard legislative finding that we do for any of the expenditure of TDT funds for these parking facilities. And you guys should all have a copy as well.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay, and then Commissioners, item number, and so that passed 3-1, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Item number 36 is a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign the closing documents for the purchase of the 393 property.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
Mr.
That's all I
Chapman.
have.
I don't have anything.
Mr. Glidewell.
Oh, I've got stuff. First item is, there are 2 bills that are currently being considered by the Florida Legislature, HB 3 and HB 5. These bills both have to do with the state impeding or infringing on home rule. HB 3 is a bill that would basically preclude local governments from regulating any kind of business or occupation without, we're totally prohibited, and some we would be prohibited unless we went through a lengthy and expensive vetting process, including studies that we would have to pay for. And all of the current ordinances, like things like regulating strip clubs, regulating our beach, any of these things would have to be done every 2 years. So not only would we have to go through the expense the first time, but every 2 years we would have to again. It is a really, it would be a really onerous infringement on home rules. So
Are you saying that the state legislature is wanting to pass a bad bill?
Yes. If you want to have
I'm
an answer
shocked.
about it. Yeah, I was shocked when I,
Would you make that in a form of a motion?
well, the other one is, House Bill 5, which would require a 2/3 vote by both the county commission and by the, voters to implement a sales tax of
Okay.
any kind, so, which is also an infringement on home rule. So, Ms. Noyes has provided a draft resolution, which basically says that we are opposed to, House Bill 3 and House Bill 5, and, that it's a usurpation of the local government's home rule authority, and it would negatively impact our citizens. I make a motion that we have asked the chairman to sign.
Before anybody seconds that, I would like to pass the gavel to the vice chair, and I second that motion.
Thanks, sir.
Any discussion from the audience?
Hey,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Is
Can't
there
break
any-
old habits.
Is there any public discussion? Ms. Bowman?
Coy Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N. At first, I think, well, this is great because y'all are so out of control that we need the state to monitor your activities. But then sometimes I don't wonder if the state of Florida itself is just as corrupt as you all.
Ms. Bowman?
Of course.
Ms. Bowman,
Yes, sir.
keep your comments to yourself concerning who's
Your
corrupt and who
corruption.
ain't.
Okay, all right. HB 5, I totally agree that the people should get to vote on whether or not you raise our taxes. It's just ridiculous for you to say that you don't think the people should have an opinion about whether or not
I
you
don't
raise our
believe
taxes.
that's what he's saying, Ms. Bowman, because we've always had a referendum dealing with any increase in sales tax.
Okay, well, he
From the
just said the
people.
Florida state
There-
HB 5
there's
was
a lot more
going to
than the
implement,
HB.
okay. Well, I agree that the people should have a say as to whether or not you raise our taxes.
Correct. Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pass it back to the chair.
Mr. Lidle.
My second one is concerning broadband connectivity. Recently, the National Association of Counties came out with a app, which is, there's a description on how to load it on your phone. The purpose of this app is twofold. One, it tells you exactly what your connectivity is at the spot you're sitting on and are setting in. The second thing is it uploads your information to a map that the National Association of Counties is maintaining, and it would give us data as far as countywide, what's connected, what isn't, and what meets the standards. It's very easy to put on your phone, and what I'm asking is that we ask direct staff, Mr. Jones, to direct Mr. Stafford to have Public Works load these on the county phones and to start using them around the county so that we can get some data as to, I think we'll find that we have a pretty bad problem on broadband connectivity, but we need the data, and this is an easy, cheap, it's free way to do that. So if everybody's amenable, I'd like that, just direct staff to do that, if that's okay. Is that all right?
Is, it says here, locate on iOS or Android app? Okay, all right. Is there any cost to this?
Not a bit.
Okay.
Takes about, took me about 2 minutes, and I'm challenged,
Well,
as far as.
so you're saying a 2-year-old can do it in about 30 seconds?
My grandson could probably do it in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It took Paul a little bit longer.
All right. Do we have a second on this motion?
Was it a motion or
In
just
fact,
direction?
we need a motion, yeah, I'll make that motion. To ask staff to download these on and do it around the county.
Do we have a second? I'll step down and I'll second that motion.
Okay, got a motion second. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Everybody vote? I need a yay or a nay.
Yay.
Yay. It's 4-0. All right, pass it back to the chair.
The third third item I have is, also this is from the National Association of Counties, that, the census is coming up in 2020, and, they recommend that each county have a complete, counting committee that would ensure that we get our numbers counted correctly. I've talked to Ms. Highnote, and she's, got the information from the effort 10 years ago. So this is just to direct staff to, organize a committee. They suggest, because the goal is 55% of the census data will be collected online this year, so they suggest that the library, the head of the library in the county and the head of the GIS in the county is on that committee, but just direct staff to bring that committee back to us so we can get that ball started. That's very important as far as going forward. So that's just to direct staff to do that, if that's okay.
Ms. Noyes, do we need a motion on that, or just we just direct staff?
Yes.
Okay,
That's fine.
Okay.
all right.
And just to announce, we're having a community meeting in Paxton, March the 18th at 6 o'clock to discuss Paxton issues. So if anyone from Paxton has an issue, they can come talk to us. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Nipper,
I'm good.
what date did you say that Paxton meeting was?
18.
March the 18th.
Okay.
At the Paxton Agriculture Center.
Yeah, and just a heads up to the rest of the commissioners, unless that meeting has been properly advertised, only one of us can show up.
That's me.
Mr. Chapman?
I'm already done mine.
Oh, have you? I'm sorry. I don't have anything. Mr. Dick's gone. Now we'll do citizens' requests. Mike Thornton.
Mike Thornton, Thornton. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Come before you today, as I've done the last 2 years, to ask permission from the board to be able to do a helicopter community egg drop over at Helen McCall Park on April 13th this year. It'll be roughly around 10,000 eggs we'll have out there for the kids and the adults to come and pick them up after the helicopter has hovered over the field. We have all the people, the volunteers line the field. We come in through the, the east side gate of the field there, the soccer field, and we stay on the north side of the field, all roped off and everything until the helicopter, we get the all clear after it drops the eggs. And then once it's cleared the field, we go back out there. We let all the kids loose to go pick them up and everything. So this will be the third year that we've done it, if we get approved today.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Mr. Thornton, you've been in touch with the people at Helen McCall,
Yes, sir.
all the different sports thing, and there's no conflict or anything like that?
Yes, sir. We have approval from Shane Supple with the Walton County
Okay.
Recreation to use the field, and the all clear there. And then we've also turned in for our outdoor permit and everything like that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any more comment from the board? Any comment from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Thank you.
Richard Laverne.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for letting me talk here. Current situation is the voting citizens of Walton County, that's 50,504 active voters, do not have a direct initiative process as other Florida counties to bring issues forward for a county-wide vote. Currently, the only way the Walton County citizens can bring forth issues for a county-wide vote is to humbly ask the Walton County Commissioners permission to place such an issue on the ballot. One recent positive example of the current Walton County ballot placement process occurred when the Commissioners did decide to grant permission for the voting citizens to vote yes or no on the issue of flying the Confederate flag in front of the Walton County Courthouse. The end result was that the active voting citizens of Walton County did decide this issue with a resounding yes vote. On behalf of these Walton County voting citizens, I am also humbly asking that the county commissioners place this fishing pier issue on the next ballot so that these 50,504 Walton County voting citizens can decide with a simple yes or no vote if they desire an ocean fishing pier for and in Walton County. Future beach and ocean recreational prospects for average Walton County citizen. The beach and ocean recreational opportunities for the average Walton County citizens are rapidly being restricted along the beach and ocean frontage of South Walton County. In my opinion, the beaches and ocean of Walton County, South Walton County are rapidly developing into an elite panhandle Gold Coast, allowing only the privileged and money few to enjoy the beach and ocean recreational opportunities, while the average Walton County citizen is continually being restricted as to what he or she is able to enjoy with respect to South Walton Beach and ocean recreational activities. What this proposed ballot does is to simply ask the Walton County 50,000 voting citizens the question, do you wish a handicapped, accessible ocean fishing pier that is not financed with Walton County property taxes, but financed by other funding such sources as TDC funds or BP oil funds? Please vote yes or no. Current use of TDC funds. It appears that the TDC funds are currently being used for tourist development and very little to nothing for the use and benefit of Walton County citizens, especially concerning beach and ocean recreational activities. In the past, the use of TDC funds have been expended for artificial fishing reefs, advertising of superb ocean fishing, and charter boat fishing. These expenditures of funds are to simply attract more and more tourist business, increasing costs, thus making it very expensive for the average county citizen to afford to indulge into such beach and ocean recreational opportunities. How does or how can the average county citizen access the artificial fishing reefs? And where in Walton County can the average county citizen afford to go for the advertised charter boat fishing? Also, fishing access from the beaches of South Walton County is continually being restricted due to the advent of increased swimmers. Missing opportunities. The Walton County citizens, consisting of young, handicapped, and average citizens, are missing the ability to enjoy the fishing and serenity over the ocean, which currently cannot be enjoyed. This ballot issue, if passed, would be the foundation for development of additional business opportunities, employment of local county personnel, and the enjoyment of ocean experience for the handicapped, the young, and the average county citizen. As a side note, according to Mayor Mike Thomas of Panama City Beach, the Panama City Fishing Pier for the year 2018 realized a profit of $800,000 after all expenses. So I am asking the county to vote on placing this issue on the ballot. It's simply, yes, we wish a pier, or no, we don't wish a pier. And if it's voted yes, then you figure out where the money and everything else comes from.
Mr. Laverne, from what I see around fishing piers, whether it's Okaloosa or if it's over in Bay County, you've got to have a substantial piece of property, one, not only for the pier, but also for any parking associated with it. I don't know of anything short of one of the state parks that has that much land available. And I seriously doubt the state park is gonna even consider putting one on their property. And if they do, it wouldn't be addressed until probably 2021 or 22, when they do an update on their marketing plan and what have you. So, and the other thing is, this referendum would not be binding upon the county commissioner, whether it's this commission or a makeup of some other commission.
All I'm asking is for a vote.
I understand that. But then again, reading what was presented here in my book, there's a lot of things that was put in there, such as you will, within X number of years, fund it, build it, and go out for that. And you can't dictate that kind of activity to the board, because there's a whole lot of things that factor in as to whether or not we can even fund it or even find a piece of land to put it on. So have you got a place that you want to put it? I think most of your stuff had to deal with, let's look at the state park. Is that where you still wanting to try and put it?
I'm open to any suggestions, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Laverne, as Commissioner Chapman said, the most likely place in our county would be a state park. It's not that I'm opposed to this, except from talking to people in Tallahassee, they're not going to do anything, as Mr. Chapman said, till at least 2021 or 22. They're not going to even consider it if we requested it. DEP is in charge of the state parks, and that's the same thing they've told me. So for us to go out and spend approximately $40,000 in a special election to do this would be a waste of time until we know that they would even allow it or even think about allowing it. And talking to our lobbyist, who I've asked to check in on this, she said there's no desire from either department to have a pier on their property. And as Mr. Chapman says, I don't know where we would put it if it wasn't on state property. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. I just think that we have to wait and see if they would allow us to do it. I don't know where else we would put it.
I would settle for the first part of the thing, that paragraph that says, as a voting citizen of Walton County, do you wish the Walton County build a handicapped accessible ocean fishing pier in Walton County with a minimum length of 1,500 feet using TDC funds or other available funding, but absolutely no funds from Walton County property taxes, period? Just that first paragraph. Yes or no?
That's fine. That first paragraph, I agree. I don't want any taxpayer money to do it either. Maybe the TDC can do it, but we first have to see if the state would even approve it, even think of approving
Well,
this.
let's first find out if the citizens want it.
Well, your own survey that you ran didn't show that big a desire to have one. It was only about 1.5, 2 points separation between the yays and the nays.
I didn't run any survey.
Well, somebody put it in the paper. And
I put it in the paper, and I had a 76% positive approval.
That ain't the data I got back on it.
So
But anyway,
somebody
that's,
take the wrong data.
well, they may have. But that doesn't negate the fact that we don't have a large enough parcel available for us on the south end of this county.
I'm just asking for the first paragraph.
I can't see putting that on there at this point in time if we haven't got even a place to consider putting it.
Will the board of directors please take a vote on the first paragraph?
Wait a minute.
I think,
Just a second. Okay. First of all, we have to have a motion and a second before there'll be a vote. Now, Mr. Clyde.
I agree with Mr. Chapman that this is sort of putting the cart, I mean, we gotta have if you put this on the ballot and say you get a yes vote, well, you really haven't accomplished anything because we have absolutely nowhere to put it. And we can't force the state to let us put it there. So I think it's premature. If you came and you said, look, we've identified this parcel.
I'm
of
asking
property.
you for the citizens to go to the citizens and ask them if they want it. That's 50,000 people that vote.
Yes, sir.
Ask them, do they want a fishing pier, yes or no? If they say no, fine. But if they say yes, then you've got something to work to.
I would just say this. If you ask me to vote on whether I'd like the Atlanta Braves to move down here, I'd say yes. But we don't have a stadium to put them in. That's what I'm trying to say. I think, as Commissioner Anderson said, it's not that we're saying we're against or for, it's just saying we don't have any place identified to put it. And so we would need, before we went to the public, we would need.
Can you make a no motion and have a second and vote on it? And if you all vote no, then you're on record for voting no. But this is for the citizens. And so you four people are in a position to tell 50,504 voters yes or no?
That's what we signed up for.
No speaker.
Frank Day, D-A-Y. We could do this two ways. To get it on the ballot, you could pair it up with presidential preference primary, March 17th, 2020. That would be free, wouldn't cost the county a penny. Other than printing costs, it would just be a little bit of ink added to a ballot that's already got to be printed. And that would give the citizens an opportunity to sound off on it. In the meantime, you could simply write a letter of consideration for the state to consider it at the two local major state parks for inclusion, Great State Park, Topsail State Park, just so that they can begin the discussion in Tallahassee for their next management plan. Thank you.
Anyone else? What's the board's wishes? We have no motion. Thank you, Mr. LeBrun.
There is no vote then?
There's no motion to vote on it. Mike Miller.
I'm Mike Miller. I live in Marina Village. I have a written proposal of Marina Village is just off of 83A, behind Hammock Bay. There are 15 streetlights on 83A in the area between Highway 20 and the back entrance to Hammock Bay. It is 0.9 miles from the back entrance of Hammock Bay to Marina Village, to the entrance of Marina Village. There are no street lights along that section, 0.9 miles that runs on 83A. 11 street lights on 83A are actually paid for by the county. 3 are paid by the city. I went to the city council meeting first and requesting consideration of this, and they said, well, they didn't have any lights. This was a county road, and lights were county. I checked all of them, and as I say, 11 of them are county, 3 of them are city, and 1 is independent. So my request is that, in other words, we have over 100 people living in Marina Village. There's no lights along that stretch of the road. My request is that we have 2 lights, 2 street lights installed by the entrance or near the entrance to Marina Village. There are poles there. I understand that these lights cost $23 a month to
through Gilco. They install them, and so it's just the cost of, cost of the lights.
Mr. Miller, did you say there's existing poles there near that
Yes,
interchange?
there are existing poles with transformers. They run all along the street. There's a path that runs all around there too, of course.
But I was kind of looking to see if there's poles close enough that we ain't having to
There
buy a
is.
pole and put another one up.
There's
It's
one
just-
right, really at the entrance, and there's one slightly down from the entrance. They're spaced. The power line runs all along there.
Is,
Have
is,
staff looked at this?
is,
Public Works?
yeah, but wait just a minute. Is this in the city limits or is this outside the city limits?
Marina Village is in the city limits. Now, it's a little 83A, I don't know, the city limits runs along there, and I think actually 83A and that section is actually in the city. I'm not positive on that. We are part of the city though, Marina Village.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could we ask Buddy Wright to come up here just a second?
Buddy?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Wright, do we have a lighting policy?
We do not have a roadway lighting policy, no, sir.
So, is there any way y'all could come up with one and bring it back to us about these sort of situations?
Certainly, sure can. So, something would probably be prudent to do.
Mr. Chair, I'm not, I think the city should have some input.
Currently, we do have some roadway lighting now. Most all our roadway lighting, with the exception of, I know there's some lights along that path that was built back in 2009, 2010, but majority of our street lighting is along state facilities, intersecting roads with state highways, and we get reimbursed to the tune of about $23,000 or $32,000 a year. DOT pays us for that to increase safety along those intersections, but we do not really have a roadway lighting policy outside of just the participation in that program with DOT. So if the board is inclined, we can certainly look at one and bring back to the board, some suggestions.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Nipper. I think the city of Freeport needs to take some ownership in this also.
Okay.
If it was totally outside the city limits, it might be a little bit different.
And I believe that's an issue that we would address in a policy.
Right.
Is how we look at those county facilities as opposed to those within municipalities.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that they have, but right now we don't have anything to guide staff to, so if we could just I'll make a motion that we direct staff to bring us back a lighting policy that also would include the cities, when appropriate, but so that we know that we have a set policy about what we need to do about these sort of situations.
Certainly do that.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. We're gonna take about a 20-minute break. Okay, I'm sorry. No, we're gonna take a 20-minute break right now. I've got to use the bathroom.
Take a
Public
break
comment.
now.
Public comment.
We're gonna do it
I
after.
gotta get.
I'm sorry.
After the break.
Now we'll take the time for the citizens to talk on any subject. Please say your name and spell your last name.
For the record, Alan Osborne. Now, this is pretty interesting. I saw you got that paperwork, and y'all got a problem. Now, I talked about the stuff earlier, but I'm going to talk about it now. Last time, y'all adopted a standard that you'd already adopted. You just adopted the report saying it was there, but what have you done about it? Have you asked the engineers that are in there building those records? Have you asked Sydney and Larry to tell you about the 84 settlement agreement on Sandestin that said none of that stuff that was posted online mattered? There's a legal agreement, and they've got an obligation to tell you, the commissioners, that what you're getting is false. Now I think you've seen the package. How are you going to be liable for that? And then after we spoke last time, somebody got up here, Dana got up here and said he cut a deal that we'd already had hearings on drainage. Not true. And there's not been a settlement on drainage. And truthfully, the county could not change the state-adopted settlement, the drainage standards. The legal department wouldn't have the right to cut a deal. And when y'all voted, don't you think it's kind of wrong that the developer's defending you guys from breaking the comp plan? I mean, you're there to represent the citizens from the developers. And Ms. Noyes is having Dana defend when I said you haven't made notice on the NOPC. Yet I noticed Judge Green on the CU issue said you had to prove you had notice. I'm tired of this. What are you talking about? Is Dana not defending the course? She's looking at me like I'm lying. I'm not. I've gotten the paperwork. But certainly I've never been up here in litigation with Mr. Matthews on drainage standards, so that was just a false statement. So with Mr. Chapman being our representative on the water board and having voted against the water standards and looks like you're going to loosen them up again, how are you going to go to state and federal agencies when you can't enforce your own rules that you've adopted and say, we need money to clean up the bay we polluted? I mean, really? You won't enforce your own standards. You adopted a 6.7-inch standard, and you said it what it was. You pull a geotech sample. Why isn't your department, planning department, and your legal department making those engineers who made those applications now step forward, because you've got an issue, and certify that it meets those standards? Because if it doesn't, you can go to the judge and make them. Also false, uneconomically fixable. No, you don't want to make the developer put the water in the lake that's on the other side, and you have every right to do so. Then you wouldn't have to buy the property. But you took on the liability for $60,000 for the developer. And I'm going to get that license, because this is wrong. People are manipulating this, and it ain't about septics. It ain't about Alabama. It ain't none of that. It's about this board and its previous board's failure to follow the plan, and you hadn't done it. And you're one of them, Mr. Chapman. You're the reason. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Everybody got one?
Yep.
Coy Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N. Okay, so tonight we're going to start with a quote from an article, the first page article from Saturday, February 9th, Walton Sun. This cover article was about the remodel of Budden Alleys, and there's a quote by the owner down here where he says, quote, "We knew that this area would eventually get discovered and people would come." The next page is a couple of 300-year-old maps. Back in the day when wealthy people used to sail around the world looking at the best parts of the New World. This says the Premier of West Florida, and it has a highlighted area of the Santa Rosa Island. So you see, when the owner of Budden Alleys says he knew that people would eventually discover this place, it sounds really ridiculous considering that this has been the premier location to go in Florida for 300 or 400 years now. Okay, so we're going to look at the next page, a 1910 map of the Panhandle, where you can see that someone has drawn on it with black marker where the railroad is going to go. I've blown up the section of Walton County, and then for your benefit, I've colored in the Choctawhatchee River blue. Now, if you look at the left side, you can see where someone has taken a magic marker and has just scribbled in an area on the river so that it looks as if land is there. If you take this map, which has been drawn on with a black marker, and drop it into Photoshop, which can tell the difference between black print and black marker, because black marker isn't really black ink, it's blue, green, or brown, it can tell the difference between a black dot and a blue-black dot. And if you fully saturate it, you can see quite clearly on here where, I'm guessing this was J.P. Morgan, who scribbled on this map in order to distort where Walton County started and ended. So then the second to last page is once again the fake FNBT map, and you can see where it says Commissioner Districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 5 includes all lying south of the baseline. That's where the township range numbers change from north to south. But evidently J.P. Morgan figured that included Cuba. Everything south, right? Everything south into Choctawhatchee Bay. And then he gave this map with his magic marker drawn on it to a school student to draw in the 1936 Walton County school districts. If you remember, we didn't have a high school down here. So the schools down here became part of Walton County School District number 5. And since then, you have been manipulating the map in order to claim that the point of Washington County is Walton County. Magic marker is not the appropriate way to reform counties on a map. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Commissioners. Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department, CARP and TER. We have 2 items on our agenda today for your consideration. The first of which is an adoption hearing for Chapter 5 of the Walton County Land Development Code. And the second item is a companion resolution approving the Stormwater Technical Manual as a companion to the Land Development Code. This is the final chapter of the Land Development Code for your consideration as part of our 2-year process to update the comprehensive plan and Land Development Code. Kristen Shell has worked very hard on this particular project as the project manager. She's available to answer any particular questions you might have. And we have our 2 stormwater engineers, Andrea Ward and Rita Banagnati, that worked very hard on preparing the stormwater manual. It's been reviewed by Public Works and peer-reviewed by a number of other engineers. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. We do have a slight technical update to section 2.2 in the manual to change a particular reference and not use the property appraiser's acreage as shown on the property card. And we have a few pages for Chapter 5 related to height limitations, an updated graphic, map 5-1, showing the height limits. That I think you've received copies of in advance of this section of our meeting.
So Mac, the request is first to adopt the amendment to the Chapter 5, and then a motion would be needed to adopt the resolution to adopt the single-family residential stormwater technical manual?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. To the technical manual?
To Chapter 5 and to the technical manual, there's 2 editions, a map and a graphic, and the correct height limitations for the Edwin overlay district.
Gotcha. Okay, so with both of those motions, then we just need to clarify that it's with the substituted attachments that were given out tonight.
So it's both of those motions?
Yeah, we would need a motion on both of those,
Okay.
and we need to take public comment on both as well.
Yeah, right. Okay. So we'll start with 43 on the agenda item. number 1 in the planning book. What's the board's wishes?
With the substituted attachments.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Osborne?
For the record, Alan Osborne, how can you have a public adoption on the day you're making substitutions? There's no way that was all advertised properly. You're making substitutions and telling people to substitute things at the adoption hearing. You know nobody's looked at it but y'all, because they just gave it to you. I mean, when are we going to learn our lesson on this? Everything out in public. This is a public meeting. We want to see all the documents. We don't want to have it hidden. And I just want you to think about this a little bit. This is South Walton. Drainage is an issue. I mean, I don't have time to study them now. I'm talking on my 3 minutes. You know, this is South Walton. Water's a problem. Now, I read that engineering report that was online. Now, I want you to take 4 glasses of water, and you tell me if this makes sense to you. You put poop in both, and 2 outside ones. I'll make Miss Bowman happy. And I'll take 2 clean glasses. And according to that memo, the engineering principles that if I treat this water, it's a better practice than if I retain this water and don't put the poop in the clean water. So if I treated poop water and poured it in this glass, would you rather drink that one or the one that was retained where no poop water went in it? That's pretty easy, isn't it? So the key to single-family homes in South Walton is retain all your water, because somebody else is going to get it, and you're going to create a mess. You did it at Grand Point. You did it at Driftwood. Y'all have admitted it's all over. So why would you ever relax the standards and then try to convince the public that you're here to save the bay? Nobody believes you. Nobody believes you at all. We know what you did. We know what you did and why you did it. Absolutely we know. And we know the lives and litigation that it destroyed. There was probably 25 lawsuits in Driftwood alone, and the county spent millions, and yet you still bet on the same roll of dice. Look at the people in Grand Point. They're all going to court. Y'all create a lot of this when you can't follow the rules. You hurt other people. You created the beach process. When I say you, the past boards, when you didn't follow the comp plan and areas that were supposed to have 2 families in it now have 10 houses with multifamily rentals, that's why the beach is overcrowded. We knew how much infrastructure, and one of y'all was foolish enough to say we didn't want a comp plan. Well, that person wasn't even here when we adopted. So we want to manage $15 billion in real estate, $18 billion in beachfront real estate without a good plan? No, y'all want freestyle. That's what some people want. I know it ain't all of you, but that's what got you into trouble. And the money you spend on litigation could fix most of your problems because you just won't follow the rules. Don't change the codes. And if you change anything on single family, it should be retain the water 100% on your property. Don't put it on somebody else. I know what time it is.
Yeah.
Good.
So just to be clear, Kristen has been incredibly transparent throughout this entire process and has done a, well, so I don't like the insinuation that she hasn't been transparent and getting all the documents to anybody who wanted to see them.
Listen, Kristen, come up here. We're not going to have a discussion between you and, well, and I brought her up here, Alan. Well, you were running your mouth back there too.
What I just want to clarify for the public that's listening as well is that these are graphics that represent what is in the text and has been in the text for months. So it's not new language or new ideas or concepts or regulations. I would never bring that to you last minute without it being vetted by the public.
Kristen, Mr. Chair, talking about graphics, can you go through this where it says site coverage 2.2 with the paperwork that you
Okay, so what that you're looking at is the stormwater technical manual. We ran that through our staff, our BPFR staff, to sort of beta test, and what we found out was we don't really want to include the property appraiser's graphics in there because they're not always correct, and that might be misleading to folks. But there's no substantive change to that policy or requirement.
So you're deleting?
Just
Well,
those,
got next to
the
it,
property
you're-
appraiser's pictures, because that isn't always correct in terms of calculating impervious area, and we don't want to mislead folks in terms of how they do that. But there's no change to the manual substance.
And this is just for single family?
Yes, that technical manual, and I want to recognize Andrea Ward and Rita. They worked extremely hard on this technical manual to try to make things better for our citizens. They're the authors of it, and that's hard to do outside of our normal work environment, so they're really to be commended for doing this. But the manual, it makes things easier for our single-family homeowners. We still have a stormwater standard, and Walton County, I want to mention, is one of the only counties to require stormwater for single-family residential. We could not find another one that's doing that, so we are above the board, above and beyond in terms of our single-family stormwater procedures and policies and requirements. We're actually going to submit it to FAPA and to the American Society of Civil Engineers for award. So we're pretty proud of the fact that you guys have such a policy and that it's in place. But this manual does make it easier for folks in terms of how they comply with our single-family stormwater requirement. It should make our permitting go faster and should make it a lot easier for our homeowners to maintain.
And is this for single-family homes that don't have a HOA, a homeowners
It's for-
association?
Basically for single-family residential that was permitted a long time ago before we had stormwater requirements. These are old developments that went in with no development-wide stormwater management. And so we're going back into those and lot by lot looking for retrofit to get that stormwater management in place. This is something we've had for a while, and like I said, we are pretty above the board in doing that. I couldn't find another local government in Florida that is doing that. So, it gives them some stormwater management and actually what Mr. Osborne was talking about. They have to retain their water on site.
Sorry about that. If I'm a homeowner and I follow the manual, this would save me $4,000 or $5,000.
Yes, sir. While still accomplishing stormwater management in a way that the homeowner can maintain and keep on their site.
So, and if I lived in Okaloosa, what would be the?
You don't have to do any stormwater management if you're in an older development. I know for a fact in Okaloosa or Walton, you don't have to do these things. It's like I said, we are actually above the board.
Thank you.
What's the board's wishes? Okay, Coy, come on up.
Coy Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N. I'm pretty sure that what she just said is kind of like a sort of manipulation of the facts. She said that this is the only county that has stormwater management for single-family residencies. And I think we're going back to what Mr. Osborne said about the reason that you have that is because you're overbuilding the single-family lots, where other places in Florida actually respect their land and they don't put 20 houses on a single-family residence piece of land. I also just recently found an article, and I'm sorry I didn't bring it this time, but I've discovered that you guys actually need a presidential order or the Secretary of the Interior after consulting with the Native American family in order to change any building laws, rules on Native American land. You need an executive order from the president or the U.S. Congress or the Secretary of the Interior can consult with the family. So everything that's been built here since, 1974 has been illegal, because the President of the United States didn't approve it, and nor did my family, to whom the land actually belongs. So I would also like to make a point that Mr. Osborne brought up, which is, since all of this development has been so recent, it seems rather foolish to me that you mixed all of the good water in with the poo-poo water to begin with. A high-rise has all of the bathrooms stacked over it, so it would have been really, really simple to put in like a second pipe so that it was separated from the shower and sink and dishwater, so that when we do have to reuse and reclean water, basically you have mixed the soil water in with all of the good water that we're pulling up out of the Florida aquifer. And that just seems a really stupid way to build to me, that since all of this construction is so new, it would have been really nice if somebody had just thought, hey, let's not mix the poop in with our drinking water. That would have been a really great idea, but I don't think that that was your interest or intent. I think your interest and intent is to destroy everything so that nobody wants to be here, so that you can privatize the premier of Florida. So yeah, there's been some really stupid people running things around here for a long time. Thanks.
Anyone else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Number 2.
So this would just be a motion to adopt by resolution the single-family residential stormwater technical manual that Kristen and Mac have already introduced.
Okay.
And again, with the attachments that were substituted tonight.
What's the board's wishes?
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? I have a couple of things. When you get an approval for this installation, what is the procedure to do this, and what is the plan after this?
There's a couple different scenarios, but the simplest scenario, if you're not in an ICPAL, which are our hard stormwater areas where we know we have significant flooding, the builder, can prepare the stormwater plan using our spreadsheets and our sort of program that's in the technical manual. And then that gets reviewed by engineering, Rita or Andrea or Dewberry, if they choose the fast track the same way that they do now.
Okay. Once it's installed, what happens then as far as, do we go back and check it? Do we check it 6 months from now? Do we?
We currently don't have the staff to go and check each one, but the new requirements do ask them to provide us with an as-built, which is different than what we were getting before, which was just an engineer certification, or a final construction drawing, which we need for code enforcement. So let's say somewhere down the line a neighbor complains, we need some record of what was installed actually. And this changes a lot during single-family construction because the builders in the past haven't been really used to doing stormwater, but I think with their involvement in the design of the stormwater system early on, that's going to change. But anyway, we'll have that, and then the homeowner records, they're going to sign a document that says, we know we have this system, we've built it according to county standards, and we know we're responsible for maintaining the system, which we currently don't have.
Okay. One thing I'd like, and if Mr. Gladwell will incorporate this into his motion, is I'd like a 6-month review after this, if this gets passed, to show that it's working, show that we're letting builders build stormwater facilities. I'd like to see how that's working against professionals,
It's a wonderful
practicing
idea.
stormwater
Yes.
engineers.
Yes,
And
wonderful.
would you amend your motion in second?
Yes, sir. I will.
Will you amend your second on that?
Yeah, but if I make a comment,
Yeah.
under, section 1.3, on section 1.3 of the manual, there's a maintenance schedule there which identifies the different types of retention or filters or whatever. And there's an initial inspection after construction, and most of it's 1 year, and then it depends on subsequent inspections, either from 2 to 5 years from the time they were placed in. But did I misunderstand you that you don't have staff to come back and follow up on this?
We don't, I mean, we don't currently. We would need another DO inspector. The homeowner needs to know that what a typical maintenance schedule would look like and that they're responsible for maintenance. This has kind of been missing in the program to date. You know, either it doesn't get installed originally or it doesn't get left there by subsequent homeowners because they don't know that they have a system that they're responsible for maintaining.
But it also requires under this manual that they document whatever they're doing maintenance-wise and supply that to the county, and it would also transfer with a deed on a subsequent sale.
The maintenance agreement and the actual plan would be recorded under this manual.
Okay.
And would follow the deed.
It would.
All right, so if I understood you, you need another inspector.
It would be nice.
Huh?
It would be nice.
Well, we're going to fix and go in the budget, I consider that.
Yeah, we can kind of spot check now, and we've got a guy, like, we went out and looked at 10 of the systems under the old regulation that we had, and we found out that half of them weren't there, or they weren't right, or, you know, so, yeah.
In the event, Kristen, that if this is implemented tonight, this technical manual, what is the action that can be taken against a homeowner that fails to do it? If they've already, they design it and submit it, and they get approval based upon that, but they just don't do it. So
It would
what
be
is
a
it?
code
Recourse.
enforcement.
Code
So
enforcement,
code is gonna do it?
which is currently the case. And with the recordation, if they sell the property and the system is not there, that may get caught in the sale. So you would have to have the system there and functioning to, or either inform the buyer that it's not there.
I'm not too fond of just hoping they do it. I think it'd be appropriate to maybe hire somebody that inspects it once before they get the CO.
Yes, sir.
But
And we
it's
did raise
there.
our fees, so hopefully that will help.
Not only is it important, like Mr. Chapman said, to inspect it going in the ground, but I mean, I read and I like this chart on 1.3. But the devil's in the details, and if we don't inspect it, and if we don't have enough code enforcement officers to actually enforce it, then we are whistling in the cemetery. So, I would suggest strongly that we put in enough people I don't know what your opinion is of what enough people is, that's your business. But we need enough people, both DO, inspectors and code enforcement officers, to enforce this stuff so that we have some assurances that it's in the ground, that it's working properly, and that it's being maintained properly. And all the rules in the world are no good if you don't enforce them. So I would strongly suggest that be in the budget this year to make sure that these things are enforced. And I think we might as well not have any rules if you're not gonna enforce the rules. That's my theory.
Anything else? Mr. Osborne?
And while he's coming, if you don't mind me asking, agree with everything that's been said, obviously. With your permission, we would like to, and if you may want to add this to your motion or separate motion, to let us work with finance to see if there is available funding to move this forward
Right now.
currently, and let's get it moving. Then we can work toward the budget, but I think there's probably excess funds from unfilled space, FTEs in the budget to get us through, because I agree 100%. You know, it needs to be, if it's gonna be a priority, we need to make it a priority, and that means we need to make sure it's done, and we need to make sure it's maintained and kept.
Amend the motion to include, to direct staff to see if we can hire a DO and a code enforcement officer to enforce this stuff as soon as possible.
I make the second.
Yeah.
I amend my second to include
Okay.
that.
Mr. Osborne.
Okay, I think it's important if you'll read the last sentence on that motion on your, what's that last sentence on that ordinance there, on your thing, what's it say? No, I'm talking about the last paragraph, because I don't have the paper, I left it. It says, areas not approved for a regional, on a regional drainage plan. Thank you. I appreciate that. This technical manual only applies to single-family residential construction in South Walton that is being built in an area that does not have an approved regional stormwater management plan. I find that interesting because your engineer, Mr. Graham, said that there is no difference, but yet you define the difference right here in your own motion. He said there was no difference in the review and the implementation. The second thing is this. I want you to know that from my driveway, since I settled with you, there's been 3 different kinds of drainage systems installed. I've made multiple code enforcement, and he never called me back, Mike or whatever his name was. At one of them, the houses, and this doesn't address what happens when the water goes into your property. A lot of these neighborhoods, it's you that owns that right of way. Are you going to report yourself right now? You're going to report homeowners and hold them responsible. I suggest you report it to the code enforcement officer right there that we're not maintaining the property that you own. Because from my driveway, I watched a builder dig up a pipe that you put in on a weekend and reshape the ditch to flow the water the opposite way. Anybody can come out there. You can use a house level to see that he redirected the water. I called. Nobody came. Track hose out there on the weekend digging up the county ditch. Come out. You can still see it. I don't know how many times I called in Thomas Hicks for coming in the neighborhood with a track hoe on the weekends, and I reported it. Go look at the record. You've got flaws in this because you can't hold us to standards that you won't hold yourself to. You come out to my neighborhood, any one of you. I was insulted that District 4 said that he drove through my neighborhood once and didn't see a problem. I've been there 8,000 nights. I've got 100-year-old oak trees that have died since y'all altered the drainage plan out there. Now, why did they live 100, 150 years and now they're rotting from the inside out? Because it was altered. So don't you dare, just like I couldn't bring my drink in here tonight, all of you got them. Okay, the standards for you are the standards for me, every one of you. I'm looking at every one of you. Don't you dare hold me to a standard that you can't hold yourself to. So you guys go make a motion right now to report yourself to code enforcement and tell it how you're going to maintain my neighborhood, because you're not.
Coy, I think you've already spoken on this issue.
No, that was the other one. Coy Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N. No, I spoke at the public comment, and then I spoke on item number 43, and now we're on
Okay.
item number
All right.
44. He is right, Mr. Osborne, about code enforcement. Code enforcement does absolutely nothing. They don't enforce anything. They don't work during the times of day that the code needs to be enforced. And as far as everything you're doing here, just let me know when you're done rewriting the English language, and I will let George Orwell know. Thank you.
Randy Gardner. I have nothing but compliments for the document and the manual that's been prepared. But I do feel that there's some areas that should be clarified and considered by the board. First is once the stormwater submittal plan has been submitted to the planning department and approved, then it's implemented and built by a site work contractor or the general contractor. When that's complete, I think it should be the same process as it is when you finish building your house. When your home is completed, you ask for a final inspection by the building department. They inspect and issue a CO, certificate of occupancy. From the stormwater installation, it should be inspected, in my opinion, by someone from the planning department that's qualified to review what's been installed and issue approval. So then you have approval of your stormwater, you have approval of your building, and once that's done, in my opinion, the county involvement should stop at that point. Well, unless, as Mr. Gladwell has suggested, which I certainly agree, there's code enforcement has the staff that upon a complaint from a neighbor or whatever the problem may be, they have the staff to investigate. But as far as any other inspection, nothing takes place after the final installation inspection unless there's a complaint. I think I heard Kristen say that the document would be recorded. I would strongly suggest that that's not a good plan. It follows the land. Each time you have a closing, I sell my house to Mr. Chapman. He'll be required by the title company, among other, any issues that may come up. One would be a survey. You'll provide a survey. If this document runs with the land, then the second requirement will be that you have someone qualified, and perhaps in this case a surveyor has to be a certified surveyor. You'd also need a licensed engineer or inspector to come out to see that your stormwater system that may have been installed 5 years, several years before, is still in compliance. That would be an incredibly expensive and cumbersome undertaking. I would suggest that this document not be recorded. Any questions that they may have?
Mr. Gardner, I strongly suggest that it does be recorded.
I understand that. I disagree. For the reasons that it's an item that would be very time consuming and relatively expensive to be inspected. Any more that when your house is built, you don't have to have someone come out to make certain that you haven't added an illegal room to it. I don't really see a lot of difference between the two. Thank you very much.
Ms. Harris.
If you don't have it inspected.
Please spell it.
Suzanne Harris, S-U-Z-A-N-N-E, Harris, H-A-R-R-I-S. If you don't have it inspected, then 10 years, somebody buys it from out of state. They really don't know it has to be inspected. They buy it thinking everything's fine. And then 5 years later, they sell it, and it's not working, and it wasn't working when they bought it. And your code enforcement people are complaint-driven. They only go when there's a complaint. I don't think you've got enough code enforcement people to handle what they've got now. And I've always had very good, every time I've called them, they've come. So, but I think you've got to have a step in there that enforces this, because I think we pass so many things that aren't enforced. And a lot of times when I've called code enforcement before, and I don't know the new code enforcement people, but the Owens, I would call them, and they would come back to me and show me, oh, I was told by this commissioner to leave this up. It's okay for them to have it. They can have signs out front. They can have rafts out in the parking lot. They can have clothes hanging on clothes racks in the parking lot because they were told by this commissioner it was okay. Well, code enforcement's in a bad situation because they can't just go and say, yes, you can't put up white chain link fence all the way down Scenic Gulf Drive. Because they've been told, even though the code says no, they've been told to let that go on. And that's gone on for years and years. So I don't think you should put it in their hands. I don't think that's fair to them. I think an inspector who knows if that system's working or not, that's what you've got to have. And then you've enforced what you put on the books. And I don't care what kind of rules y'all pass, as long as you enforce them for everybody. But you can't just have some that the drainage isn't working and some that really jump through the hoops and do it. So if everybody has to do it, and everybody's treated the same, I think that's what's best for Walton County.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Mary, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I would just like to make sure the motion is that, and Kristen explained it, I apologize, but just to make sure that the motion was that we have enough code enforcement to implement the rules, and that it goes with the CO, it goes with the DO, and it goes with the sale. Is that correct? And that's how we're going to maintain our stormwater when it comes to single-family homes in this situation.
That's the motion.
All right.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, it would be our intent to bring on into our staff someone with some particular expertise in this area, not just to beef up the stable of code enforcement officers, but someone that would specialize in going to look at these homes initially, look at the stormwater, and then go back and review it. So I appreciate what Ms. Harris said, because you know, we do have a lot of codes that have to be that should be enforced, if that be the case. But this one would be more of a special training issue that someone would bring to the table that would be more in tune with these, as opposed to just taking one and going down the line of the code officer. So that would be our intent.
Anyone else?
Hollis Risley, R-I-S-L-E-Y. I have not read this chapter 5, but I think probably everybody who is aware of the conditions in the county regarding stormwater needs to have great concern about the volumes and where the volumes go. Retention is one thing, but if we've got construction and building that dump water into the bay, we're exacerbating a problem that I think we're trying to solve. And ultimately, I believe that the data will show that the volume of water that comes into the comes into the bay, that used to be on land that was a sponge, is now hard surface. And that rapid runoff has got to be a contributing factor. So it seems to me that we don't want to go down the road of the definition of insanity. Keep doing it and think it's going to come out a different way. And I again urge you to consider the impacts of any stormwater that we're creating, new stormwater that we're creating, doesn't rapidly end up in the bay. Thank you.
Good evening. Michael Lynch, L-Y-N-C-H. Commissioners, for those of you I haven't had the privilege of meeting yet, I am the new Code Enforcement Manager for Walton County. I cannot speak to what has or has not been done in the past. My background in enforcement, I've spent a lifetime of enforcing the law and upholding the standards that have been put before me, and this office will continue to do that to the best of our ability. We cover 1,100 square miles with 4 people. There's a strip of sand that runs 26 miles, about a mile wide if you want to include that have over double of our manpower. We will gladly accept any help that we can get. This stormwater change is going to be a cultural change for Walton County. It's going to require a different approach on how we do things and how we see things. I can't answer to certain complaints that have happened in the past, but I can assure you that every complaint that comes in is investigated to the full ability, given our resources. We are going to require training in this area. Some of these aspects go a little bit beyond layman understanding, so any additional sources that we get, we're going to have training. And we're looking at hiring a new officer to replace my current position. And but I want you to have the confidence that the citizens of this county can call us. We are going to respond, and it's going to be handled appropriately. And should you have any questions or concerns, I will avail myself to you at any time. I'll give you my own personal cell phone, so you can contact me anytime you want. I moved to this county because I love this area. I fell in love with it. I feel invested. I've got a property stake here. So if you have any questions, I'll try to address them the best I can. But I have every confidence in our engineers and our planning folks. They're doing what they know to be best, and I'm here to help make sure that happens.
Mr. Lynch, I hadn't had the opportunity to meet and talk with you yet. What's your background as far as?
Law enforcement, I was a state trooper in West Virginia.
Okay. You got 2 ex-cops up here too.
And I feel like I'm in good company. But it's something that I take to heart. I believe in fairness, but I'm also firm. I don't have a high threshold for some of the crap that we have to deal with. I'll draw a line in the sand. I'll be respectful, but they're going to know my position. There's a lot of things that people think that code enforcement can handle. And if it's not in the code, I'm sorry. We just cannot address it.
I have had a chance to meet you, and I was impressed, and I appreciate what you said, that you can't fix the past. I just expect you to do their job for the future. And if anybody tells you I said that they could do anything, I have not said that. You enforce the code.
I've not heard that myself, sir. I mean, I don't know what was said in the past.
I don't know what anybody else has said, but enforce the code.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Get with my aide right over there, Laura, raise your hand. Set up an appointment to see me.
Yes,
please.
sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
And welcome aboard.
Thank you.
No. Any more comments? Seeing none, what's the board's wishes? I thought we already had a motion. I'm sorry.
We got a motion, don't we?
You did.
Amended
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay.
Motion to adjourn.